Good morning, everybody. This is Coffee with Craig. I am Craig. Here is my coffee, and you are here for the show. Anyway, I hope that your weekend is off to a good start. I know mine is. Here in Sacramento, it is a nice, comfortable. It's going to be in mid 70s today, which is great weather here for Sacramento. In fact, I might have to find my way out to the range. I just got my Option Zero stock, put it on my AR, and I'm looking forward to giving it a try. And afterwards, I'll let you guys know what I think. Anyway, on that note, just wanted to let you guys know. Look, if you have apparel, if you have gear, if there's stuff out there that you'd like us to help promote to your audience, please connect with us. Send us a message, either in Facebook Messenger or drop us a message in our YouTube channel, or you can just hit us up through our website. Let us know, because here's the thing. We want to help promote the culture. We want people to know and understand who are the people who are making moves and making things happen in the Second Amendment community. What are the products that they need to be supporting? And quite frankly, if you're watching this, that means you're not just a manufacturer, not just hawking products. It means that you are a supporter of the Second Amendment, and therefore we want to make sure to support you. So help us help you promote the culture. Connect with us, and let Coffee with Craig help you reach the world. Now, one product that we may or may not be talking about on this show, at least we'll probably be talking about it from the aspect of the fact that they're trying to ban it, and that is going to be bump stocks. Now, I will be the first one to admit to you, I knew almost nothing about bump stocks before the Las Vegas shooting. And interestingly enough, since then, I think a lot of people have come to learn a lot of things about bump stocks. Even people that I knew who knew about bump stocks. It was one thing. It was a novelty item. Not a lot of people had them. Not a lot of people were interested in getting them. In particular in California, because, California ammunition is crazy expensive. And unless you have the type of money to be able to buy that type of ammunition, or you're reloading, it really wasn't economically worth it. Not just the product itself, but the amount of ammunition that you go through in the process. So, that's just me. But having said that, one thing that I do recognize about them is that they are a firearm accessory, right? They are not considered a firearm. In fact, the ATF went through their whole ruling process and determined that a bump stock is not a machine gun. They went through what was interestingly a detailed research in order to determine whether or not it could classify. Now, that's not to say that ATF didn't want to ban it. It just meant that ATF recognized that they didn't have the authority to, because under the law, it is not defined as a machine gun, period. Well, now as they're looking to go through this process again, this process of evaluating whether or not they should regulate bump stocks, it is appearing as though, you in the public tend to agree with them. They sent out, as they begin the process of looking into bump stocks, they sent out information and sought comments from the public about whether or not bump stocks should be regulated, or what the regulation should be, whether they should be regulated as machine guns. And clearly, they received 36,000 responses. And of those 36,000 responses, just about all of them, we'll say these easily 70-some-odd% of them actually noted that no, they should not be regulated as machine guns. Now, what they did was they asked people certain questions, and they had 23 questions that they wanted people to answer. Now, admittedly, most people didn't answer any of the questions. Most of the people who responded simply said, look, no, you should not be regulating these things. You already said you shouldn't, so therefore you shouldn't. But what they did was they sent out these questions that they were hoping that people would answer, and they broke them out into manufacturers, retailers, and consumers. Let's take a look at what some of those questions were. So here are the questions that they sent out to manufacturers. And the first few is just trying to figure out, where are you in this particular industry, right? What do you do in this particular industry? Are you really in this industry? When you scroll down here to question number 6 is really when they start getting into the meat and potatoes of some of the questions. Like number 6, for what use or uses have you marketed the bump stock? Have you marketed bump stock devices? Now, this is an important one because one of the things that in many of these things that they're looking at, these bump stock ban bills that they're looking at, is they want to say what's it manufactured for. In other words, if it's manufactured for the purpose of increasing the rate of fire. Well, if you look at the original bump stock, the bump stocks were not created, or at least they stated that they weren't, when they sent their stuff into the ATF, they stated that it wasn't for the purpose of increasing fire. At least that's not what their stated purpose was. Their stated purpose was it was created in order to help people with disabilities be able to utilize these firearms. And in fact, they do. There are individuals who've testified before committees in various different states who've identified that the only way that they can utilize many of these semi-automatic rifles for self-defense is with a bump stock. So that was the stated purpose. And I guess what they're trying to do is they're trying to reiterate and determine that that is in fact the case. So let's get back to some of the questions. Number 7, if the ATF classified bump stocks as machine guns under the Gun Control Act of 1968 as amended and the National Firearms Act of 1934 as amended, what would you expect to be the impact of your gross receipts of the calendar year? So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to determine, well, okay, are you going to lose a lot of money? Which to me really doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I get they're trying to see what the overall impact is, but the fact is you should, if you're looking at regulations and whether or not it should be regulated under either one of those acts, the thing you should be looking at is whether or not it is consistent with the law, whether or not there's something about the law that causes about this item, that causes it to fall under an area of the law where it ought to be regulated. Not how is it going to impact retailers. Quite frankly, and I get it, that's a big deal. But see, that is a decision, that is a consideration that policymakers, legislators, those who create law, that's something that they should be dealing with, not the ATF. All right? Unless the ATF is just looking for a reason not to ban them. I don't know. But all I do know is that that's a question that, quite frankly, really isn't relevant to those individuals. Once again, they ask here, look at 8, they're asking about the economic impact. What cost do you expect to be associated with the disposition of the bump stock inventory? If ATF classified bump stock devices as machine guns under Machine Gun Act of 1968 and the NFA as amended, do you believe there would be viable, profitable law enforcement uses for these items? So what they're trying to do here is, one, they're trying to see what is the impact going to be if we wind up regulating these things. Notice that there's almost no discussion about the technical aspects, the technology of it. How is this not this? How is this? How does this fit in the grand scheme of these laws and regulations? None of that, which, by the way, is exactly what you should be asking the manufacturers. If the manufacturers don't believe that they should be fit in there, then say, look, this is what we're considering. How does this not fit in there, or how do you believe this fits in there? No, what they want to know is, well, what's the economic impact going to be? Well, how much are people going to lose? And once again, those are all decisions, and those are all comments that policymakers should be dealing with, legislators, when they decide whether or not they're going to pass legislation to ban these things. Not ATF, because that's not their job. They're in the executive branch. Their job is to administer and enforce law, not create law. All right, so let's take a look at then what they asked retailers. Retailers, once again, they spend their first 3 questions trying to establish where you are in the industry, all the way down to, and then once again, here's 7. What do you expect 17? What do you expect the impact to be? If classified as bump, what do you believe the economic impact to be? What cost do you expect to be associated with the disposition of these devices? Once again, what they're doing is they're getting into asking questions that, quite frankly, have nothing to do with the overall whether or not they should be banned. Or at least not questions that the ATF ought to be concerned about. The ATF ought to be concerned, once again, about the technical aspects. How does this qualify as a machine gun? Under the definitions that are currently under law, how does it meet? How does it fall? Where does it fall under those definitions? And then if the ATF then wants to send a recommendation that Congress probably should consider something, then that's their job. Right? That's their job. Their job is to say this law is inadequate. If your desire is to ban this or to make this or to affect this, then the law as it currently states is not adequate. And we, the ATF, do not have the authority under law to do this. And that is exactly what the 36,000 letters sent to the ATF told them. But wait, there's more. What did they have to say the questions asked the consumers? In your experience, where have you been? Where have you seen these devices for sale? Once again, don't really know why that's a question. Based on your experience and observations, what has been the price range, and for what purposes is a bump stock advertised? See, once again, this is an attempt at ATF to do more than is really, quite frankly, what is their job. All right? Their job is to apply the law, to write regulations to help enforce the law. I don't know what any single one of those questions has to do with the actual technical aspects of whether or not bump stocks should be regulated under the Gun Control Act or the Firearms Act, National Firearms Act. I don't know. I really do not know, nor do I understand what their point is, except to say that they are doing far more than what is their job, and they need to stop. And this is a part of an alarming thing, and I've seen this. We're seeing this happen in state after state, where executives, in particular attorneys general, are deciding that they are going to do more than is their job. They're going to exceed the law, not just implement the law, but they're going to try and write law through the regulatory process. And they're, in essence, try to impose their will on the people of their respective state, and in this case, these United States. It's a trend that we need to recognize and that needs to stop, because it seems to be something where they're largely doing it to go after firearms owners, those who are exercising their constitutional right to keep and bear arms. And therefore, we need to stand up against it. That's it. So anyway, folks, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure, once again, I keep telling you guys this, please remember to like and share these videos. And make sure you subscribe. I know some of you have come across this video by accident or someone sent it to you. Make sure you subscribe, because we're talking every day about Second Amendment and civil rights and culture and politics. We're talking about freedom and liberty here in these United States. And I know you want to be a part of the conversation. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to like our Facebook page. And remember, this is the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home of the fight for civil rights. We got to use them or we're going to lose them. Cheers.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.